My privilege to introduce Reverend Barbara.
The principle, you may have guessed already, that we're working with today is unity. And every morning I like to wake myself up with a conscious choice about what's the focus of the day. And today's unity. And the practice is to make a joyful noise. To make a joyful noise. A joyful noise about gratefulness. That could be singing, that could be observing and recognizing, that could be finding your good and praising it. It could be acknowledging someone that you've thought so many times, how wonderful that this person is this way. It could be, thank you. It could be giving heartfelt thanks in advance for that which you want to experience. That's the essence of science of mind treatment, actually. So make a joyful noise. That's the practice. Never miss an opportunity to make a joyful noise, whether it's singing. You know, St. Francis would burst into song. I'm studying the life of St. Francis. This is a shameless plug, but it fits so nicely. I'm studying the life of St. Francis as preparing for this class. And I was in the library 2 days ago looking for some great book to listen to as I drive around. And off the shelf hopped this very old, sort of beat-up looking package that had this picture of this monk on the front, and it was the Prayer of St. Francis. And it was the story of St. Francis, a movie made by Rossellini, I think. It was a famous Italian filmmaker in the 30s or 40s. And so I watched this movie as I was trying to stay awake last night watching this movie, and he would burst into song. He'd have all these monks around him, and they were trying to understand, why are we following this guy? And they'd complain, and then they were wet, and it was storming, and they had no place to live, and they're going, really? You know, really? We're going to keep going there? And he would just look at them, he'd get a big grin on his face, and he'd burst into song. And I understand from the little study that I'm managing to do is that he did that often. So that's make a joyful noise. You know, sing praises for what lifts your heart. That's a fabulous practice. It's a practice of gratefulness. We must become, this is, my take on the spiritual journey, is that we must become the place where what we want will take root. We must become that atmosphere where what we seek to experience will be comfortable. We must become the place where the life we dream of can set down roots. Roots. Get itself grounded so that we're anchored in that which we seek to experience. Now that's what Ernest Holmes taught us in The Power of Treatment. To give thanks in advance for that which you want to experience. Preparing to receive it. We must prepare to receive that which we want to experience. So that means that we can't want to be experiencing love and be behaving miserly and with blame and shame and criticism and complaining. Those two things don't go together. We must become that which we want to experience. And the third step of treatment, that's what that does. It says, I accept this connection to this infinite one, and I accept that it moves me through every moment of my life. And I accept that I am fully supported. I accept that as I sit in the center of God, all things are given. And the fourth step of treatment is, and so I give such thanks for this truth. It's so natural to give thanks when we realize that we are seated in the center of the whole deal. We can't fall out of it. We cannot be separate from it. We can forget, but we can't be separate. It's right here, always. And so giving thanks is that way to anchor it in our consciousness, to remind us that we cannot lose it. So I love this word gratefulness, and I'm playing with it a little bit. I'm experiencing gratefulness right now. I had a class this morning in Ukraine at 6 a.m., and I was trying to explain to them the difference between gratefulness, like gratitudeness, and gratefulness. And the Russian language is so wonderful. It has words that are so clear. They instantly got it. And we were talking about what they are full of. And I am so great. I am filled with gratefulness right now. Gratefulness. Because I'm here. I'm standing here. And because my life has such meaning to me now. I so appreciate it. I am so living the life I'm born to live. It has such meaning and purpose that wherever I go, I am filled with this. I'm experiencing gratefulness because I'm living my life as I've been called to live it. And there were times when I was filled with great resistance, with a fullness of resistance. Have you ever been there? Life is calling you, come on, come on. You're going, no, not me, not now. Tomorrow, when the dishes are done, when the kids are grown up, when I have more money, when I am la, 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 la. You know, we put it off and we put it off. But in fact, resistance is futile. You might as well just give it up. Because it's no thing of itself. It's just your unwillingness to step into the life that you've been called to. But, you know, we all have to go through our resistance. And certainly I did. And it wasn't really very pretty all the time. But I am right now filled with gratitude that I get to live my life, and there are people who actually care about how I'm doing and what I'm saying. You know, I mean, it's a shock to me. If you'd known me when I was little, you would realize what a shock it might have been. Or if you knew how my mother saw me when I was 15 or any of those other things, it would be hard to predict this moment. You know, do you know what I'm talking about? Oh, I was such a renegade. Well, you know, when I was a kid, they used to say, stop daydreaming. I was daydreaming a lot. And I never could settle on any one thing. I kind of flitted from here to here to here. And there were two messages I got from my family. Could you just be quiet? And just stop daydreaming. Come on. I remember once, I guess I was around 12, and I was the oldest in 4 children. I had lots of responsibilities. We lived on a farm, and we were always picking or canning or squeezing some juice or hoeing some garden or something, you know. We were always working. But on those moments when we weren't, I would be lying out on the grass looking up at the clouds, you know, seeing the dragons and the rabbits and the, you know, all the things that happen up there, and imagining and daydreaming and imagining myself. And one day I got this idea and I started writing. I don't know why. I just started writing. And what came out was, to stars and clouds up in the sky, I pose to you the question, why did I see you not before? As my reply, they said, only look some more. And as I did, my small eyes grew. I was 12. My small eyes grew in awe to see things so very new. The simple things I knew were there, but never really stopped to care of how or when or why or where. And I was like, whoa, what is that? I didn't know. I never thought like that. It just kind of came through. It was my first experience with, life coming through when you're open. Life is always, we're sitting in the center of it. It's always coming through. And if we're paying attention, we catch it. That's what musicians know. They sing and write songs from that flow of life. I wrote that little poem from that flow of life. But what I did with it, I ran down to tell my mom. And she was working, as she always was working. And I remember she was at the kitchen sink peeling potatoes. And I said, hey, look, let me read this to you. And I read it, and she said, that's nice, dear, and she kept peeling the potatoes. Well, in that moment, I made a choice that wasn't my best choice. In that moment, I chose to believe that my mother didn't support me, that my mother didn't know who I was, and I had an experience of a gratefulness of resentment, which I nurtured for 40 years. Have you ever let some little insignificant thing just set you on the wrong path, and then you kind of get stuck in that little path? And you nurture that resentment or that fear or that worry or that idea that there isn't enough for me or my mother doesn't have time or nobody understands me. Have you ever had an experience like that? Yes? Yes. So we experience a great fullness of resistance to what life really wants to be, which is love and open. My mom loved me, but I didn't believe it. In that one moment, crystallized all of the little random thoughts that I had that I wasn't, okay. And it crystallized in that moment, and for 40 years, I held fast to that idea. And I denied this great fullness that was seeking my attention. I denied it by denying my relationship to my mother. Now, I'm not proud of that. But I have to see that. I did that in order to do something differently. In order to let life move through me the way it wants to move, I have to see the way I've let it move before that hasn't served me. And I have to say no to that. I actually have to make another choice. A choice for a great fullness of love and joy. Because if I don't make that choice consciously, the pattern of those 40 years will continue to rule. And I will become bitter and stingy. And I didn't want to be. And so, about 15 years ago, I made a different choice. And I'm so happy that I did. I'm experiencing great fullness now because I'm back in this country. And that means that I had a successful round trip flight for miles and miles and miles, several thousand miles over big water for a long time. And I'm grateful for that. I do not take that for granted, that I had a successful round trip experience. Every time before I leave, I make sure that I'm current with the people I love. Every time. I call my sisters and my mom and my brother and my children, and I visit them, and I don't go around saying, well, just in case. I never say that because it's not really what I think. But what I want is, I want to be fully present, no matter what. So I leave feeling current, feeling open, feeling in love. And I make a joyful noise about that. I tell everybody how important and special they are to me. So people know that they matter. I didn't always do that. During those 40 years, it was like wandering around in the desert, you know. But since I woke up and made a different choice, I get such joy from making a joyful noise, from telling the people that I care about them. I'm filled with, oh no, that's not the way to say it. I'm experiencing gratefulness because I have so much support in my life. My children, who really would like me to be here, never, ever, ever do any guilt on me, never. They always say, well, okay, Mom, it'll be nice when you come back, but you know, I'm happy you're following your dreams. I experience gratefulness because of their generosity. I experience gratefulness because people sign up for classes and want to go deeper. I experience gratefulness because Brad had an intuition today to sing that song, which is one of my favorite songs by Daniel Nahmad, which is really about going deeper. And isn't that why we're seated here today? To remember that feeling of being in the heart of God, being in the center of the thing itself. I experience gratefulness when I am in the midst of a challenge and I know that it's an opportunity. I used to have to work to do that, to really remember. It's like, okay, this is really hard. What is it I'm supposed to do? Oh yeah, this is good for me. Oh God, this doesn't feel good at all. This just feels terrible. No, it really is. Just center yourself. You'll remember. It's fine. Well, I don't like this. It just, how? I don't know how. And I would wander around trying to talk myself back into this place where I remember. Well, now I don't have to do that. I did that. A trained mind is a really great thing. That's why we're here. You know, and if we practice enough, we get it. So, I had a real challenge last week. I mean, on the scope of things, I suppose it wasn't so big, but at the moment it felt really big. And so someone who has been part of our Ukraine Science of Mind community here in this country for a long time, for 10 years, decided to stop making their monthly contribution. And, I mean, the money was one thing, you know, that also wasn't very nice. It's like, but what about, and what if they don't, and all of those thoughts come up. Because at the moment I forgot that I was seated in the center of the thing itself and that all that existed was available to me and that I just need to open and let myself be receptive and to give thanks in advance for the good that was always coming to me. I forgot that for just a minute, or actually for a couple hours. Have you ever done that? Yeah. I'm glad I'm in such good company. But aren't we here to remember? Isn't that what we're here for? We're here to shift that pattern, right? So I forgot, and I could hardly think. I didn't know what to do, honestly. I literally didn't know what to do, and everything I was trying to do didn't work, so I got in my car. It was like 9 o'clock at night. I'm going, what are you doing? I don't know, but I'm going to drive. So I just went out, and I just drove a little bit because I couldn't function. And so I just followed my instincts, and I drove, and I calmed down. And I started to sing, and I came back, and I wrote a letter. And so the letter was something like this. Oh my gosh, I can't understand why you're doing this. This scares me. In all things, give thanks. Okay, I know there's something here for me through this experience that you've brought me. Thank you. But how could you leave? You've been with us for 10 years. What would make you go away? In all things, give thanks. Well, you've been here for 10 years. I'm so grateful for you've walked this walk with me. Yeah, but then what about when you're gone? How am I going to do that without you? In all things, give thanks. I am never alone. There is always everything that I need is always here. Oh, okay. Well, you're right. Everything I need is right here. And I just need to let go of my fear and trust life again. So I'm choosing to trust. Thank you for this big, powerful reminder. And I sent the email. You know, sometimes I would send it to myself because I thought, Barbara, you're just crazy. But, and maybe I was, but you know, I sent it anyway. And the next day I get an email back from her that says, honey, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. We just have some things we want to do that are different right now, but I'm still with you. And then the next email was from Music City Center for Spiritual Living in Nashville, Tennessee. And the letter said, we sent, and the amount that this woman has stopped giving every month is $400. This Nashville writes, we sent you $400 check, but it came back. Where can we send it? I mean, really, hello? You know, in the synchronicity of things, they had to, this is really off the chart, but what I think is, in the synchronicity of things, they sent this check in September in advance of her deciding to stop this particular flow in order to be available to me when I needed it in November. It had to be returned to them. This whole thing had to happen so that I could get this moment where it's so clear. It wasn't $380, it wasn't $523, it was $400, exactly the amount, because Spirit is saying, pay attention. One door closes, another opens. It's fluid. Trust life. I'm right here with you. I'm right here. I'm always here. All of me is right here, always. And that's true for me. It's true for you. It's true for every loved one we might be worried about. All of God is right here, always. Yeah, that's a good one to breathe deeply. So, the handle that I'm using to keep myself here, actually, I don't know, that I've used, is in all things give thanks. In all things give thanks. That's about deeply trusting. I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know how to replace that $400. I don't know how to replace anything. But I do know that I live in this constant flow of this infinite God, that I am one with it, that it follows me around even closer than my shadow. I live in the heart of it, and there's nothing that can separate it and me except some idea, some wrong thinking. And so let's just know together right now that no matter where any of us is, no matter any condition we might be experiencing, no matter any past that we've had a hard time letting go of, or no matter anything we are resisting, let us know that there is a power, and it's greater than all of that procrastination and all of that resistance and denial. There is a power, and it's always all around each of us. And it's always going, come on, divide, 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 come on, come on, come on. It's always calling us to go deeper. And when we pray from this state of remembering our oneness, then it's easy to give thanks for all things, because we recognize that all things are already given. And so I give thanks in advance for myself and for each person here for all the good that is calling us, seeking our attention. I give thanks for everything that has happened up until this moment that brought us right here so that we can get this message, so that we can have this day, so that we can be who we are right here on purpose, right now, with God. And everything else falls away. I forget all the other thoughts of imperfection. I just lose them. They're gone. And I'm right here, right now, knowing this truth for me and for everyone here and all the people that we love, and in fact, all people everywhere. I am one with the one, and all is well. So it is. Thank you.
So honored to welcome Reverend Barbara this morning to speak to us on gratefulness.
There's just a little image I would like us to each find as we move into this next part of our service. And that is the image of yourself seated in the center of life, in the center of God, in the center of all that there is. So just allow yourself, this whole service to this moment has created this space for us to just take it deeper. So if you just would close your eyes for 20 seconds and allow yourself to see yourself seated in the center of the thing itself, connected to everything. And just notice what that space is for you. And just be there for a moment. In the oneness, in the unity, completely within yourself, within God. You know, when we are lifted up, even just a little bit, it lifts up everything all around us. There's just the vibration of this bell, and that same vibration happens within us. And when we allow ourselves to be lifted up just a little bit more, can you feel it? It just radiates from us. It's such a gift. It's this gift of life. So the principle that I'm working with today is unity. And without any predetermined activity on my part, everything in this service feeds unity. The music, the prayer, the reading, everything. It's just how seamlessly it can work when we just let it be so. And the principle, and the practice, is make a joyful noise. Make a joyful noise. In other words, step out into an awareness of what brings you joy. Step into an awareness of where you are feeling gratefulness. Step into a consciousness. Consciously let yourself be aware when something touches you, when someone does something that serves you or inspires you. Let yourself know it. And then do something with that, because that's a gift, that's an energy that's just been given, and use it. That's what it's there for. It's there to circulate. We're all in this great movement of life, and it moves through us, and if we let it move through us, then other people get to experience it, and it lifts us up. And so I am experiencing gratefulness today. I'm experiencing great fullness of joy that I'm here and that you're here, and that there's something that we care about that is so compelling that it has us coming back, that has us learning to forgive ourselves. I heard that line in that song. That has us being willing to step out of our little nature or our needs or our hopes into something that's much greater, into that space where we're right in the center of it all. I'm filled with this feeling of honor for what we do here, for this process of being willing to grow and to learn and to know more. We could be golfing, which is not a bad thing. I don't do very well with golf, actually. The last time I was golfing, I took the thing and hit the tree with it. I was so frustrated, so golfing definitely isn't for me. Or we could be gardening, which is a lovely thing, or washing dishes, or any number of things. But we're here. And so gratefulness would have us notice, why are we here? What is it that happens here inside me, inside this state? How does it fill me? You know that song, We Let the Love Wash Over Us? And in Ukraine, the Russian words, we did that song in Ukraine a couple years ago, and the words in Russian are different, and it doesn't fit the rhythm of the, music is like poetry, the direct translation doesn't always work. So we had a musician in the audience in our community, and she and her father redid the words to that song so they would work in Russian with the tone and the right rhythm. And the words were, Puskай любовь наполнит нас, which is, the fullness of love of God fills us up. The fullness of love fills us up. So, that's really, gratefulness is really about letting ourselves be filled up. And I remember lots of times in my life where what I was filled up with was not something I'm very grateful for today. Well, I suppose in the big picture, everything had to happen so that I could be here, so I guess I'm grateful. But it wasn't so much fun to experience gratefulness of frustration, or gratefulness of resistance, or gratefulness of fear. But we've all gone through those times, haven't we, where we have been experiencing a gratefulness of something that doesn't feel so good. And what's the antidote to that? The antidote to that is to see ourselves in the center of this infinite presence and to know that wherever we go, it follows us. We can't escape it. It goes with us. This whole entire life moves right along with us. In fact, it follows our command. And so the gratefulness that I have today is that I'm living my life on purpose. I'm living who I am. And I've spent so many years trying to live something else. Who I should be, who I thought somebody wanted me to be, what I thought I could do. We've all got some stories about that. And today, I'm actually filled with gratefulness because my life is on purpose. And I'm doing what I was born to do. And it was quite a circuitous route, let me tell you. Just ask my siblings. They're as shocked as anyone. Make a joyful noise has been what's allowed me to do the changes in my life so that I can stand here and share with you who I am without feeling pretentious, without feeling like I've got something you don't, without feeling egotistical, or without feeling foolish. I honestly can just stand here because I've been practicing recognizing the good in my life. I've been practicing finding the good and praising it. I've been practicing giving thanks in all things. I've been practicing this for a couple of years really seriously. And I can tell you that it's working. Because I can stand here and I can feel that we're all just living our lives to the best of our abilities. And we're here to learn how to do that even more juicy, even more like with the energy, the sweetness of the women's choir this morning. Did you see how tender they were with each other? Did you see the feeling? Did you feel that feeling? It's like the bonding that happened when you just let yourself be open to each other. It's so precious. And so singing about it is to make a joyful noise. Standing here and showing us is to make a joyful noise. It is to honor it so that it has more space in our life, so that the energy of that moves us beyond those places where we don't feel like enough, so that we can stand in the next place a little more easily. So that's the practice. I'm experiencing gratefulness this morning because I actually have traveled thousands of miles recently to come back from Ukraine to be here. And I went there and I came back, and so I had 2 successful transcontinental over the big pond experiences. And I'm here, so I made it. It was safe. And you know, I don't take that for granted. I don't take this travel for granted. I'm grateful every time we land. And you know, remember I don't know if you remember, but I remember on the planes people used to clap when you landed, you know? Do you remember that time? Hooray! You know, relief, I don't know really what it was, but well, now we're all so sophisticated, you know. Nobody dares clap unless you're Ukrainian. They all clap. They're so excited. And children, they clap too. Because there's something to recognize about, wow, here we are. We're in a new spot. We did it. Yay, thank you. That's making a joyful noise. My little granddaughter, Gracie, she lives here, and she's 6, and the first day I'm back, I can't hardly wait. I'm just like, can I get there before bedtime? Can I get there before bedtime? Well, I barely did, but the next day, we had a day together, and she gets in the car, and here's her opening line. Hey, you know what, Baba? She calls me Baba. That was my idea, actually. It means grandmother in Russian language, babushka. Hey, Baba, do you know we're all one big family? I said, really? She's sitting in the back seat. I'm watching her in the mirror. I said, really? Well, how did you get to that thought? What makes you think that? She said, you know, we're all from this God that lives up in the sky. And do you know that the apes stood erect? They stood up erect. This is a 6-year-old, didn't know she knew the word erect. Stood up erect and then became man. And she said, and so they're our ancestors. I said, really? She said, yes. And she said, we can tell because we have hair and they have hair. Therefore, I know it's true. And I'm going, well, great. And so she says, so we're all one family. Everybody, even over there where you go, we're all one family. I said, well, that is so great. I'm so happy you know that. She said, you know, I believe God's up there in the sky. Do you believe that? I said, well, actually, no, I don't quite. I used to, but I don't believe that. Now, I believe that God's right here in you and in me. Well, how can that be? How can that whole God get in me? How does that work? I said, I don't know. It's a mystery. It's just a mystery. But I believe that that energy of life, which I call God, is right here, right now, having this conversation with us, between us, with us. She said, really? Well, and she got a little serious look on her face. She said, all right, I'm going to believe that there's a God up there and there's a God in here. And I'm going to believe that. It's like, yes. So I'm experiencing gratefulness because I get to have this conversation with this amazing little being. And when I left, honestly, some years ago, I was experiencing pain when I left. Because, oh gosh, I'm not going to get to have these great moments with these babies. And I would leave sad. And I wasn't celebrating my life. I was like, oh, darn, I wish, my life could all be in one place. And why does my life have to be all over the place? And my life is jagged. And gosh, how do I get it all together? And I had this energy that was like, And in the past year, I have resolved that question. And I have stopped resisting my life. Does that say something to you about you? Is there something in you that wants to have you stop resisting? Your voice is got so much capacity that wants to come out. I just have to say that. Sorry. I meant to tell you privately, but oh well. There it is. Forgive me. When I stopped resisting my life and I started allowing myself to just make a joyful noise about the life I had and accepting it as it was, guess what happened? Yes, it did. It got better. Funny darn thing. So I made a little lesson out of it. Teachers, ministers, we just love to make a lesson out of anything because, in fact, every day of the year, we're talking about the same thing, trying to find new and interesting ways to talk about it. Every week, it's the same story. We're one with the one. And how do we do that in some new and interesting way? So when I first went to Ukraine, almost 12 and a half years ago now, it was very hard to leave because of what I said. Hard to leave them, hard to leave them. I was always like never where I was. And I had somebody I really cared about over there. And when I was coming back, I said, oh, I'm going to miss you. And he said, don't miss me. And I said, well, of course, that's what you do when you care about somebody. He said, well, maybe that's what you do. We think we're going over there to help them. No way. They're way ahead of the curve. So I discovered something, and I made a little game with it. And it's called the active art of not missing. And here's how it works. So how many people have something in your life right now that you're missing? Either, something you used to be able to do, or somebody you used to see, or... Okay, a good number of us. All right, you're going to love this. You're going to love this. This is going to transform your life if you let it. Okay, so here's how it works. You start missing the thing you're missing, and you go, wait, make a joyful noise. What am I filled with gratitude for right now? What about this relationship that is so wonderful that I'm going to miss it? So instead of missing, you focus on what you have, not what you don't have, but what you have. If you didn't have this love, you wouldn't be thinking about missing it, would you? If you didn't enjoy that thing that you're missing right now, you wouldn't be missing it. So instead of missing it, focus on what you get from it, what you feel with it, what it does with you, how you feel with it. So I started experimenting with that with my beloveds on both sides of the water. And the most amazing thing happened. Every time I started missing, I gave thanks for loving. And I realized I'm loving more and more. And wow, and love was a big deal for me. I mean, that's another whole talk, but someday I'll tell you about it. But it wasn't easy. But I discovered that I had so much love in my life, and I didn't know that because I was focused on what wasn't working. But as soon as I started measuring what was working, making a joyful noise about it, I had so much love. I was so filled. I was filled with gratefulness for this love. And what happened? The love got better. It got better everywhere. And it has a transformative power all its own. So when we make this great noise about what we appreciate, whether it's finding the good and praising it, or honoring the good that you see in someone else, or affirming your good in advance, which is really what spiritual mind treatment is, what is it you want to be grateful for? And know that you have that because you live in the heart of it. You can't not experience it because it's who you are. And so the practice of treatment, spiritual mind treatment, our affirmative prayer, in the third step is to say, and therefore, since there is one and I am with it, all of it is for me, I claim it. And I use as much of it as I can. And so I'm using it to make a joyful noise about everything that touches me. Because there's plenty of things that hurt. There's plenty of times when you feel rejected or lonely or scared or tired or whatever, right? Just because we're on a spiritual journey doesn't take that away. But what we do with it is where it really matters. So this thing about oneness, my granddaughter gets it. You know, she's on her process, but she's only 6. Bradley started this morning with this Indian music. And I was debating whether to tell you this little story. But I think I'm going to end with this little story because it's very touching. But before I do that, I want to ask you, where are you experiencing gratefulness? Is it in your joy or in your pain? Is it in your love or in your fear? And if it isn't in the joy or the love, don't despair, because you're sitting in the heart of this joy and love. And you can choose that. You can practice that. You can practice the active art of not missing what doesn't serve you. And you can give thanks for what does. And bit by bit, it becomes your life. I know, because I used to be bitter, unworthy, little, broke, scared person. And I am not that person today. But nothing about the essence of me has changed except where I'm putting my attention. And that's this teaching. And I praise that every day. And you can too. So I want to tell you this little story to end with. My precious son, some of you know him, and his name's Andrew. And I think in another life he was a Native American. In fact, I'm pretty sure. When he was a kid, you know, he could walk through our backyard and find an arrowhead. He could walk, you know, when he was working. Well, there's so many stories. I just love this person. But there's so many stories I could tell you, but he's always finding Indian things wherever he goes and having Indian-like experiences. He's even studying the Native American flute. He has a collection of artifacts that he's found on paths where people have been walking for hundreds of years and never saw them. But he does. He sees them. So right now he's in Colorado. He's on his way back, actually, right now. He's been there for 2 weeks. Elk hunting. This is a person who can't kill a fly, takes spiders out of the house, you know, brushes mosquitoes away. He's elk hunting with a big rifle. He is so in honor of these animals. He so respects life. And he respects this relationship when an animal gives itself, consciously, unconsciously, we can never know, to you. He's not the kind of hunter that goes out there with his six-pack. He goes out there and he sits and he revels in God, in nature. And so for 10 days, he's been out there reveling in God, seeing and feeling all the things that really do it for him. For him, that's his God. Both of his buddies have an elk now. Yesterday, I knew it was his last day. And I'm working away at my house, and at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I get this feeling. And I go, wow, Andrew's there. It's his last day. It's getting dark. It's 5 o'clock there. It's getting dark. He's probably getting ready to get up from where he's been sitting for the past 5 hours and get ready to go and pack up and come home. So I'm just thinking of him and sending him some love. And all of a sudden I realize that gratitude is really what's important. And so I'm just giving thanks for who he is in my life, and that he has these 2 weeks, and that his wife supports him to do that, and that everything supports him to do that. And as I'm doing this gratefulness and I'm being filled up with it, I get this strong image, and I say, wait, stop. Andrew, be very still. Your elk is coming to you right now. And I just saw it. It was 10 after 4 my time. So I went, wow, okay, wonderful. And then I went back to work. 10 minutes later, I get a SMS on my phone, and it's a picture of this elk that just came to him. And then he calls me, and his voice is shaking. And he's going, I can't describe this, what just happened. But he said, this elk just came to me. It just came to me. And I shot it, and it was very hard. And I honored it, and I loved it, and I gave it its drink of water, and I held it, and I blessed it on its journey, and I gave thanks for the food that it will bring to me and my family for a year. Now, there's a lot of ideas about hunting, but what I know is that in this moment, my son was one with all of it. And so was the elk, and so was I. And it was such a demonstration for me that there is never any separation. So I'm very, very grateful for this oneness that we find ourselves in. I'm grateful for everything in each of our lives. And I'm grateful for the law and the love that moves us forward. I'm grateful to be one with the one. And I'm grateful that I know how to make a joyful noise today. And I invite you to practice that and experience your life with even more gratefulness, because it's all here for all of us, all the time. So that is. Thank you.